Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I'm interviewing a comedy legend. Oh, this is going to be so exciting. Those of you who grew up watching cable comedy showcases back in the day, An Evening at the Improv, A&E's Comedy on the Road, Showtime Comedy All-Stars, MTV Half Hour, and so on, you may remember Uncle Lare himself, Larry Reeb, a comedy legend, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. I got so many questions to ask him about the comedy scene, back in the 80s and 90s. Oh my God. Yeah. Unfortunately, I started doing stand-up in 2006 when the whole art form was in its downfall, and then it picked itself back up again in the early second decade of the new millennium. And yeah, so Larry and I are going to talk about all the stuff that happened in 80s and 90s comedy, his career, and all that good stuff. So, without further ado, I am going to call him right at this moment.
Hello.
Hey, Larry, it's Tommy.
Hey, Tommy, how are you?
Great, how are you doing, sir?
I'm hanging in there.
Hanging in there. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking the time this morning. I've always thought you were one of the funniest and most underrated comics.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we got cut off here. Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when did you start doing comedy?
I started in 1977.
77.
I'm going on 41 years, yeah.
Congratulations.
And I found out there's no pension or anything. I figured I could get a pension or something, but nothing.
Yeah. Where'd you start doing comedy at?
At the Comedy Womb, which is WOMB,
Womb.
where comedians are born.
Yeah.
In Lyons, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago. When I started, there was only two comedy clubs in the Chicago area. There was the Comedy Womb and the Comedy Cottage in Rosemont.
Mm-hmm.
They were just showcase clubs where they put up, 12 guys a night or whatever. And once you work for free for a year, and once you got good, then they give you some. Well, the one place had a rating. They would have you were a $2 comic or a $5 comic or a $10 comic.
Wow.
And I was a $10 comic at the comedy. So.
Nice. Wow. Times have changed.
Yeah. And then Zany's opened in Zany's is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. It opened in '78.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working there, and I've been with them ever since. They take great care of me. So.
Oh, that's good. Who were some of the comics that came up with you?
Well, when I started, the big was Ted Holm and Ed Fiala. They owned the Womb. They actually did the Tonight Show once as a comedy team. Mm-hmm. And Emo was around then.
Emo Phillips, yeah.
Yeah, Emo Phillips and Judy Tenuta, Arsenio Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And those were some of them that you would know.
Was
John Campanera.
John Campanera, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Drew Carey there?
No, he was from Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
But I used to run into him on the circuit in working. I used to work all the Funny Bones, and he used to work those too. So I knew him.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of those. Well, that's the thing. I've been headlining so long. There's so many people that emceed or featured for me that became big stars. Like Drew Carey, Tim Allen,
mm-hmm.
Arsenio, Sinbad, Steve Harvey.
Wow.
Larry the Cable Guy, who was Dan Whitney at the time.
Yeah.
And Ron White. All those guys featured or emceed for me at one time.
Wow, that's crazy. Did you ever work with Steve Pearl?
No, I know that name, but I don't think I ever worked with him.
Yeah, he's a San Francisco guy. He's God, one of the funniest guys in the world. That guy. He's
Yeah, I've heard the name. I know some of the Sands, like Larry Bubbles Brown and.
Yeah. Will Durst.
Yeah, Will. I know. A lot of those older guys I know.
Yeah. When I started doing stand-up there in 2006, all the comics in my age group hated me, but all the older guys loved me because I reminded them of guys they came up with.
Oh, okay. So you do jokes.
Yeah, one-liner guy.
There you go. That's what kills me now. A lot of these guys I see, they just do stories, but there's no punch to it.
Yeah.
They just tell these stories, and it's like, you got to be really good to tell what, like Bill Cosby, who was great at that,
Yeah.
He could tell a story that was funny all the way, and then he had a payoff. Well, a lot of these guys, there's like no payoff to it.
No, it's the alternative scene, which is just stupid, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, the alternative comedy is drama.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's good. Well, I hope I see you sometime and work with you. So I like guys. Everyone, there's a few I work with, and they have punchlines. That's great to see. Because I came up with, like I used to drive emo around because I grew up in Central Illinois, and then my brother was living in Joliet, so I was staying with him, and emo lived in Downers Grove, and he didn't have a car, so that would be on the way, so I would pick him up, and I'd drive him, and we would do the clubs. So I got to hang around with him for a couple years like that.
Oh, nice.
And he's one of the great joke writers, He's him and Stephen Wright, and they're right in there in my book with like Woody Allen. As far as joke writers, they really.
Absolutely, yeah. I met Emo last year. He came to the Bay Area to do a show, and I had a nice time meeting him. He was very nice.
Did he break character?
A little bit, yeah.
Because with some people, he won't break character. He just stays in that.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. But if you know him, like me, he doesn't do that. You can have a normal conversation with him.
Yeah, he was a little shy, but he was very nice.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So did you have the Uncle Lare hook back then?
No, I had to get a day job when I moved close to Chicago, so I had to get a day job, and I worked at a amusement park, Old Chicago. It actually was the first indoor amusement park. It was kind of like the Mall of America in Minnesota, only not on as big a scale, but they had these little shops around, and in the middle they had an amusement park, and I got a job in there in the games.
Yeah.
I made supervisor quick because I was 19 and everybody else was 15, 16. And they started calling me Uncle Lare. And, it probably came from, there was a DJ who was around here big, Uncle Larry Lujat.
Mm-hmm.
So they just started calling me Uncle Lare, and then people started knowing me as, even in the clubs, and the bartenders would know me as Uncle Lare, and then one night I was on stage and I gave some wacky advice and I said, "That's a tip from your Uncle Lare," and that's how it went. But I didn't do that. I was about 10 years in before I did that.
Oh. And did you have It's a Sick World and I'm a Happy Guy?
Yeah, that was pretty early. That was an ad lib. I did some sick joke and they moaned. And I said, "It's a sick world and I'm a happy guy."
Oh man, that works. Yeah.
And that's how a lot of this shit happens. You don't plan it. It just that's why you gotta. I tell everybody, when people start, you just gotta go work anywhere you can, and as often as you can, and stuff happens. You never know what'll happen. You gotta find your style, and a lot of that just isn't planned. It happens.
Yeah, I did a joke on stage one time, and it got so much silence. I mean, I literally heard crickets that I followed it up with "moving on," and everybody started laughing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's a good way to do it. Do you do that now? Do you still do that?
Oh yeah, I still do that.
Yeah, that's how it happened, and it's funny.
Yeah.
It becomes your hook then too.
Yeah, it's one of my hooks. I also have. By the way, has anybody learned anything tonight?
Yeah.
I have that too.
Uh,
But by the '80s, the comedy scene was just fucking crazy. I mean, it was booming, and you were like right in the middle of it.
right. Well, yeah. I was lucky because I'd already been doing it 3-4 years when the club started in the early '80s, started opening all over the country. I'd already been doing it a while, so I never like MC'd on the road. I went immediately to headline clubs and featuring clubs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got like, and there weren't that many comedians, you know.
Well, there were a lot, but not as much as there is today.
Yeah, today, I mean, it's crazy how many. Well, you got all the young guys, and then you still got all the old guys like me hanging around. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of comedians, and
Yeah.
and that's what, you know. Back then, if you were good, and like I used to work, there was 20 some funny bones. I
Yeah.
used to headline them all a couple times a year,
Yeah.
and that was, you know, and the money was. I was just working with some young guys, and they asked me the money. And he couldn't believe it. I go, you know, I was making a couple thousand, between $200 and $2,500 a week, and I had a friend who was featuring for me, John DeCoste. He was making like $900 featuring.
Wow.
So, you know, and that's what young guys are like, holy, yeah. I mean, it was unbelievable, and we were working pretty much as we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Wow.
But that ain't the, you know. And now it's harder. It's fun now when I'm older. There's a lot of comics don't want to book older to me.
Yeah, I know.
They just went to younger, which you know, it's understandable, but a little bit I understand it. But I'm still funny. I still do good, and I'm funny. So, but
Yeah.
you got to find other venues and different things.
Yeah, it's insane now. And back in those days, there was a lot of them that were just doing stand-up so they can get on TV and become an actor.
Yeah, there was a lot of that in the L.A. and stuff. Well, we used to see those guys too. They would be in L.A. and then they get booked in the Midwest, the headline, and they didn't really have the material. They were used to doing just showcases. They were used to just doing 10 minutes a night or whatever. And then if they had to go and do 45, 50 minutes, they had a hard time. They weren't used to it.
Yeah, did you ever try to move to LA or New York?
No, I never did. I just stayed in Chicago. I had a good deal with Zanies. Has at one time they had 4 near, and they would book me like once a month to headline between the 3 and 4 of them. So I always had a great deal. My wife grew up here and didn't really want to leave, and so I made a good living and just stuck around. I did a lot of TV in the
90s, yeah.
late 80s, and I did the Rodney Dangerfield special, which was that was a huge thing at the time. And after I did that, then my money went sky high, and I was headlining all over the place. And I did a lot of, so I would go to LA a lot and do different TV shows and all that.
But did you ever audition at the Comedy Store?
You know, that's the one place I never worked. I did the Improv and the Laugh Factory. They used to do a show called Comic Strip Live. It was on on Saturday nights.
Yeah, I remember.
And I did that 3 or 4 times. I'd go out and do that, but I never did work the store. I went over there a couple times, but I never worked the store.
Yeah, did you get that creepy vibe that's over there?
Yeah, it was kind of different over there. Yeah, have you worked there?
I haven't worked there, but I've been there 3 times, and like when I'm in there, I can just feel the presence of dead comics, and I look at those headshots on the wall, and they are spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah, well, they had that whole thing where they had the strike, and I don't know if you know about that.
In '79.
One guy jumped off the roof at a hotel next door and killed himself.
Yeah, Steve Lubeck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking a couple months ago. I interviewed Stephanie Hodge. You know her?
I know of her, but I don't think I ever met her yet.
Yeah, she was telling me she got an audition at the Comedy Store in '86 from Louis Anderson, and Mitzi Shore didn't pass her because she thought she was too pretty to be doing the kind of derivative material of Roseanne Barr, and so she became an improv comedian instead.
Yeah.
At the improv, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that Mitzi is, yeah, she likes what she likes, and that's it.
Yeah.
Very stubborn, I hear.
Yeah. I remember.
Is she still around? She's got to be pretty old, huh?
Yeah, she's got Parkinson's, and her son runs the place, and he runs it differently now than she did, and I wasn't even aware of that. The first time I went, I tried to get stage time, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was pretty insane.
Yeah, that's the thing that's happened now. A lot of the kids have taken over.
Yeah.
Looking at a lot of these clubs and stuff, yeah.
I know, like back when you were starting, a lot of these comedy club owners, they were like coming off of like, the casinos and the speakeasies, and they ran the clubs like that. Now, the kids or whoever used to work at these clubs that own it now, they're just doing it, based on who's got like a social media following.
Right. No, that's the big change, and it's not for the better. It hurts comedy clubs, in my opinion. It used to be they just booked, if you were fun, book funny guys, and people would just go, let's go to the comedy club, and they know there'd be a good air. Now it's getting to where they only go if it's someone who they've seen on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Or and some of these guys don't even have an act.
Yeah.
Some crazy shit on YouTube, and people they pack it, but they're not really funny. They're not.
No.
And that's how it's really changed, and I don't think for the better, but
I know
some clubs are still, like Zany's, he's still great at, he just books, he tries to book funny comedians, and he brings in, like this year, the 40-year anniversary, he books young guys, he's booking new people that never been there before that are funny, and then he was bringing in somebody else. He brought in Richard Lewis and Marsha Warfield, acts who headlined there in the 80s.
Yeah.
So he's mixing it up like that. And I just got done Sunday because my wife was terminally ill. Mm-hmm. Bert was nice enough. He just said, okay, you're going to MC. You can MC in January, February, then you can stay in town and be with your wife. So, and he paid me like a headliner. Nice. So that's so it was great. So I got to MC and work with all these different acts. See a lot of different acts.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And Marsha I knew, and Richard I knew from 30 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I rented this VHS showcase you and Marsha Warfield did called Truly Tasteless Jokes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in years, but I remember it was you, her, John Fox, Ollie Joe Prater, and Denny Johnston.
Yep. And she was a big thing for me because when she got on Night Court and that big, they asked her to host a Playboy special. There used to be the Playboy channel, and they were going to film it in Chicago, and she's from Chicago. And she said, I'll host it, but I don't want just all New York or L.A. comedians. I want you to go showcase some Chicago comedians. So they came and they put me on the show, and from that I got my first agent, which was Irvin Arthur. Yeah. And that was because of Marsha,
Yeah. And then my earliest memory of you, though, was on opening night at Rodney's, because my dad used to tape all the Rodney specials every time they came on. Yeah. So how did you get to be on that?
Well, John Fox got it first.
Yeah.
And Rodney asked him if he knew any guys, and he recommended me, and John called me and said, send a tape to Rodney's house. He gave me the address, and I sent a tape to Rodney's house.
Yeah.
And he liked it, and he put me on, And he called me, and I thought it was somebody fucking with me.
Yeah.
They would do, I thought somebody was doing an impersonation. He's like, I dig you, man. And he talked like an old beatnik. I love your shit, man. I dig you, daddy. I dig your shit, man. What the fuck is this? It's right. I thought got to hang with him because we worked he had a room in Vegas, which is now the Laugh Factory, but it was originally Rodney's place, and that's where at the Tropicana, and that's where we filmed it. And we did it on like a Monday and Tuesday. Then for 2 weeks, we got to work his club. Me and John Fox and Peter Vidal, we all worked his club. So, and Rodney was headlining at Bally's, so we got to hang around with him for a couple weeks. So, and one night, he was at the bar at the Trop, and Rodney lights up a joint at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Fox are like, what are you doing? He goes, hey, I'm a big draw. When you're a draw, you can fuck the boss's daughter. We'll ask you how it was. I mean, he was just crazy to hang out with.
Yeah,
I've heard like he was but he was so funny. I mean, it was just what a character that guy was.
Yeah, I've heard.
He hated all old comedians. Most of them he hated.
Yeah,
but he liked the young comedians, and he liked doing that. And if you look at I think he did 4 of them. I was on the 3rd one. You look at the people he had on. He had Kennis and
Seinfeld,
Roseanne,
Andrew Dice Clay.
He had Bill Hicks. He had Schimmel. He had Lenny Clark,
David Tyree,
Tim Allen, and Jeff Foxworthy were on. I mean, everyone. There were 2 or 3 guys that hit it big. I mean, he picked them.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a guy, Tony Camacho helped him talent coordinate, but he had to see him before he would put him on the show, which a lot of those shows I did with celebrities, they had nothing to do with it. But because it was his show, he had to watch and see, if he liked him, then they'd be on.
Yeah, he did 5 of them, and surprisingly enough, the 5th one was the only one that didn't have any big names coming out of it, and I'll never understand why, because there was a couple good ones like Bob Zaney and David Tyree.
Yeah, was that I thought there were 4. I remember. Yeah, Zaney did it after me. I know that.
Yeah.
But Zaney's had a good career with Bob and Tom and the radio show that's national, and he's a regular. He does a regular call in every Wednesday or something. So he's had a nice career, but he's never a household name.
Yeah, the first time I did stand-up, I actually did some of his material.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's funny. He's a one-liner. He's a funny guy. Funny one-liner guy.
Yeah, very funny. And, I like the set you did that night. I like the line, women make the rules and they change the rules every other fucking day. You still do that joke?
No, I haven't done that joke in a long time.
Yeah, that and the lemony scenty ass I love.
Yeah, a lot of people always come up to me like that. So I don't think they make scented toilet paper anymore. I think they quit making that. So
yeah, I haven't seen it.
So I had to quit doing. That's the thing. I had to quit this.
Yeah.
And I also was under people talking about having phones in your car. I like predicted a lot of shit that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's all happened. Yeah.
Yeah, rich people.
I don't do too much. I may do 1 or 2 jokes, but I don't do too many jokes from that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that's funny. I worked with a guy one time. He was emceeing. He's from Chicago, Brian Hicks, and he had never seen that, and they were replaying the Rodney Dangerfield. This is 20 years later, and they're replaying it.
Yeah.
And he said, and he'd worked with me a few times. And he said, you don't do any jokes that were on that special. He goes, I saw John Fox. He goes, I worked with his act is so word for word from when he did the special.
Yeah.
So that's that's the thing with old guys. That's the problem where they group. They don't want to book old guys. Well, that's because some of these old guys haven't changed their act in 20, 30 years.
Oh yeah.
They're still doing these old references, and it's like you gotta change the reference. And try, I do jokes about cell phones and Facebook, and you gotta try to keep up with the times. I mean,
yeah. I remember.
I went and saw this guy. He lived in San Francisco for a while. He started in Chicago, but James Leslie Jackson. I don't know if you know him.
No.
but because he was in San Francisco for quite a while too, but before you. And I went and saw him. I hadn't seen him in 30 years. He was still doing Roots. When I started, he was like one of the good acts, and his new material was Roots, because Roots came out in 76.
Right.
And he did these bits about Roots and Kunta Kinte. He was still doing that same bit 30 years later.
My
so
God.
unless you're 40 years old, you wouldn't even know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I was just flabbergasted. I'm like, what the
Yeah, I remember about 5 years ago, I saw Jeff Altman on Letterman, and he did the exact same set that he did like 30 years before on his show. And I was like, oh my God, that is just horrid.
Yeah, I mean, it, you know, but I don't know. They hit a point where they just quit writing, and they just get so comfortable doing that same. But that's no fun. It's like they're on automatic pilot. You know, it's just like they press a button and it comes out. Yeah. That's the fun to me is if you come up with new jokes. That's the only fun of it.
Yes, yeah. Seinfeld, he did the same hour for 25 years, and he finally just wrote a new act that I saw on Netflix last year, and it was good.
Yeah. Well, he did that documentary where he was trying to come up with a new act.
Yeah, but he finally did it.
Yeah.
But Tim Allen and Jeff Foxworthy, they both exploded from that special. Did it do anything for you?
Well, it got me headlining, and my money went way up to a couple grand a week, and I was, well, yeah, like that. It was great. It got me headlining all over, and you know, I made a really good living. So, yeah, it was great that way.
Did you get a?
I never moved to L.A., you know.
Yeah.
To pursue trying to get, that was never my deal, but I just like to be a comic and work. I love working clubs. That's what I was like. You know, it's funny. Here's another story. When we were doing that Rodney, after we taped it, Rodney was in a bar. He was in the bar at the Tropicana. He had like a friend there, and he's sitting at the table.
Yeah.
And me and my wife was with me. We were walking by, and he goes, "Hey, sit down and have a cocktail with us." So we sit, and then John Fox came, and so I'm sitting next to Rodney. All of a sudden, Tim Allen comes. He pulls up a chair and squeezes between me and Rodney.
Yeah.
And he's buzzing in his ear. And finally, Rodney goes, "Quit fucking bugging me. I put you on the show. That's all I'm fucking doing for you. Leave me alone. We're just having a cocktail." So that was, but you know, he got famous. But that's the way he was.
Yeah.
He was a schmoozer, and you know, knew how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he was funny. You know, he was funny. He had a funny at the day. He was a real strong actor.
Absolutely. Did you ever get on the Tonight Show?
No, I never did the Tonight Show. I never did that. No, I only did a lot of Showtime and a lot of those cable stuff, A&E and Rosie O'Donnell had a show and MT, all those shows. I did all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing you on a bunch of those, like MTV half-hour comedy.
Yeah.
And
I did that. Roseanne had on not Roseanne.
VH1 Spotlight.
Yeah.
With Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah.
Did that two or three times, and a lot of that stuff. I just did a couple years ago, I was on with Billy Gardell was doing this thing. He did 3 of them. He did Road Dogs. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw it on Showtime.
I heard about it.
He was taking guys that have been around a long time and putting them on. So he put me on.
Nice. And
it was a Showtime special, so that was nice. It turned out good.
Did you ever do Full Frontal Comedy with Dom Herrera?
Yeah. I did that a couple times.
Yeah, I think I may have seen you on that one too. I don't remember.
Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff on Showtime. Used to have Comedy Club Network.
Yeah.
Where they went around to Comedy Club. They call the club and get your 8 best guys, and then he'd film it.
Yeah.
And then every Friday night put them on. And then he picked. He had an all-star show. He picked like 6 guys, and I made it on the all-star show.
I remember
that. Film in Atlantic City. And that went for 2-3 years. He was doing that. That was pretty good.
I remember the All-Star show. Penn Jillette would host.
The one I did was Harry Anderson was the host.
Oh.
There was a few of them. Don Rickles hosted one, too.
Oh.
I think Tim Allen was on that one.
I remember when Tim Allen was on.
Kenny Rogerson. That's another guy I started with in Chicago was Kenny Rogerson.
Kenny Rogerson, yeah.
He's from Boston, but he started out in Chicago.
Yeah, Boston had a great scene, too, at that time.
Oh, yeah, they have great comics and all different styles. A lot of great.
From Stephen Wright.
Kevin Meaney, and Lenny Clark was the king. But there's a lot of
Barry Crimmins.
A lot of people don't even know, like Kenny Rogerson,
Don Gavin, yeah.
There's a lot of real good acts come out of there.
Yeah, Barry Crimmins.
Paul Poundstone came out of there.
Bobcat Goldthwait.
I think, came out of, a lot of all different styles and really good scene there, yeah.
Yeah. I heard it's a little bit more reserved nowadays, but yeah, it was pretty hot back then.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while. I just worked with another guy. I did Great American Comedy Fest in Nebraska, the hometown of Carson. I worked with Tony V. He's another really funny guy. He's an old guy, but really funny.
Did you ever work with Jimmy Tingle?
Oh, yeah. I love Jimmy. He's another one. He was great.
He should be a star.
I saw his one-man show. Me and my wife went to it. That was great.
Yeah. He should have been a star.
Yeah. He was on. They did a 60 Minutes. They did like a 60 Minutes on a Wednesday night, and he was on there doing the commentary at the end, but it didn't last. He was only Yeah, he was really funny.
Yeah. So do you still write every day?
Nah, not every day, but I still try. I got a lot going on lately, so
yeah.
I still try to keep going.
Yeah, I used to write every single day. Now I just if I have a funny thought, I just write it down, and that's the extent of it right now.
That's pretty much I am too. Yeah, I used to try to sit for at least an hour, which is really what you got to do.
Yeah.
Then you don't get writers. Seinfeld, I think you talk about that. You don't get writer's life. You just do it you got to do it every day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm pretty much like you now. It's like, if I see something, I write it down.
Yeah. Do you ever come to California?
No, not too much. I'm supposed to be down in Pachanga, which is down by San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get out there too much. I still do Vegas. I do Brad Garrett's.
Yeah.
Out there, and I never did work up north too. I worked Lake Tahoe a few times, and I saw your number. Do you live in Reading?
Yeah.
That's one I did a few years ago. We did a Bob and Tom tour on a bus, and we took a bus from Indianapolis to Reading, California, doing one-nighters. We did 12 nights in a row, and we ended up in Reading at the theater there.
Yeah, I just moved here last year. I'm planning on moving. I'm planning to move into LA next year.
Oh, okay.
And stuff. But if you ever come down to California, I'd like to come see you.
Yeah, I'll give you a call if ever. I work up in Oregon. Some stuff I do up there, casinos and stuff.
Yeah,
and I work. What's that town in the south? Medford.
Medford, yeah. Yeah, my dad lives up in Washington, and I visit him like once a year and stuff.
Yeah, I love that area up there. It's beautiful up there.
It's beautiful, yes. Thanks. Thanks, Larry, for taking the time this morning, and my condolences to you. And it was a great talk.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. I'm glad we finally got to it. And I hope to run into your work together sometime. We'll hook up.
Oh,
in the area.
I would love that. Have a great rest of the day.
All right, thanks, Tom. Take care, bud.
Okay, take care. Well, there you have it. Larry Reeb. Ain't he a cool dude? Thank you so much, Larry. I appreciate the talk we had this morning. Talk a little bit about the 80s, 90s comedy scene. If you all like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, add me as a friend on Facebook, and join my Tommy Kovac comedian page, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.